Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest, the Marc Z, President Marc Z Legal Staffing. Always a pleasure to be with you on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thanks, John. Great to be here as always. You just have such a terrific show, and I'm very appreciative to be part of it as we begin the new year.
Well, always a pleasure to have you on, and I know you always bring us timely and topical items to talk about in the workplace. And tell us what you want to cover today.
I think the topic that is going to be covered in the new year is something that a lot of employers, employees are grappling about, which is the return to the workplace. Employers are putting together policies to bring a more on-site presence for employees. And a lot of employees really feel after it's going on 4 years for being remote, even in a hybrid, that's what's important to them. So what it's doing is it's affecting the talent pool. For example, we have some very good searches, but employers need to be in sync with all their employees and want to be fair to their employees. So they establish policies of, okay, now maybe we'll do 1 day work from home, but 4 days in. And some of the candidates who could be very good for some of these spots say, look, I can still get 2 days from home. And so a lot of these employees are losing out on some wonderful opportunities where if they looked at the larger picture of working as a team with that 1 day work from home versus 2 days. Now, I totally understand. It makes it a lot more convenient when you have bad weather that you can have work from home. But I think a lot of policies from firms are open to having people work from home during the bad weather. And so it's become as we go into the new year, it's become of tug of war, because employers want to be fair to all employees as far as a schedule, whether it's hybrid in some way. And at the same time, employees are still looking for a hybrid schedule, but are overlooking some opportunities that could give them a lot of career growth, mentoring, and maybe a certain knowledge base that they're not getting by not being in the office, that kind of connection, you know?
Are you seeing a generational divide, so to speak? Or is it really across the board where people have become accustomed to either remote work or in a lesser degree hybrid? You know, the funny thing about hybrid in some degree is I've seen a lot of companies that are dictating which days, but if that day doesn't align with what your needs are, then it doesn't do you a lot of good. And so I think there's a lot of challenges with trying to create policies that appeal to everybody. But that was never historically sort of the point of policy. The policy was to treat everybody fairly and establish a policy that applied to everybody. But it seems as though the new normal to some degree is everything's negotiable.
Right. I mean, first of all, I would say there is no generational tug of war. In fact, the people that we have interviewed that really prefer a hybrid, or I think, can tell you, are mostly people with families or people that are at a certain generation where they feel that I don't need to have that real connection. I've established the connection in the past. I can do the job. I can do the job remotely. I'm very good at it. I'm very successful in it. So there's no need for that collaboration. On the other hand, the up-and-coming professionals, a lot of them really do want to be in the office, if not every day, close to every day, because it's going to help them in terms of mentoring. It's going to help them with their billable hours or expectations of deliverables. And by not being in the office every day, they're not able to have it, or it's going to take them a lot longer to deliver on certain assignments than they would if they were together. So it's one of those situations that I think is going to be with us for a long time, every year, and I think it's going to be tweaked every year. What's interesting also is that a lot of employers are making space office decisions. Some employers are investing up and taking on space, especially as space becomes less of a premium rate, whereas others are saying, this is what the future is. Why don't we, it's working. Why don't we just do a hybrid arrangement? The pros outweigh the cons. So we'll take lesser space so we can counteract what we've been paying.
So what's your guidance to your clients who are looking for candidates? And I guess asking the flip side question also, what's your guidance for candidates that are looking for opportunities? Is it all about flexibility? Is it all about establishing policies? What's the guidance today?
My guidance for clients is that they have to look at what's important to them in terms of the marketplace, in terms of being competitive, in terms of attracting talent. They may have to say, for these certain areas where we have needs, we're not going to go by what our all or nothing policy is. For the areas where we can have people come in every day, then we can adhere to that. So sort of break up the need. It's like people that had positions in the past that would come and work part-time. So you may not be able to have a uniformity of policy situation in terms of as an employer that you used to, because what you're doing is you're losing talent to employers that are more than fine as long as the deliverables are met. To candidates in perspective,
Which is a challenge in and of itself, because
right,
now we get back to, oh, well, if we're not treating everybody equally and having a standard policy, then you open yourself up to other concerns.
right, right.
And
But it also depends on what type of job the person's doing. And to candidates, at the end of the day, they have to look at what's right for them. It may be right for them right now, or maybe they'll have more flexibility to do a 4 or 5 day work week in the office when their family situation changes. So I would just say, keep your eye on the ball in terms of opportunity. Don't decide on a situation just because you can have one more day from home. Look at everything as a totality. If the 1 day from home is a bonus on top of all other factors that are going to help you take a nice next career step, then that's something that should be looked at too. But I do think that this is what's going to be the challenge, and it's going to continue throughout the year as employers look at talent and have to make a decision on how to accommodate that talent, because their competitors are accommodating that talent. And as an employee, if you want a certain job, it may be you have to bite the bullet if you want that certain job.
yeah, I think the proverbial box has been opened and the cat's been let out. I think it's the real challenge, I think, for a lot of people is not so much the lack of desire to be in the office. It's the getting to and from the office that people have gotten used to not having to deal with. If you got to tack an extra hour onto your day at both ends, and the challenges and frustrations that come with that, I think is probably where a lot of people are putting pushback. It's 2 hours of for a lot of people feel like wasted time,
Right,
or
right,
whatever that is. And as you well know, because you're in it too, the commutes become somewhat unpredictable unless you're really in public transit, and even public transit is unreliable today. Yes, they operate on schedules, but schedules don't seem to be all that consistent. So definitely a challenge to navigate. In terms of your guidance or your advice for people to be flexible, I think that's the name of the game today. I think that's really what the employees want. And I think, but it goes both ways. If an employer is going to give a little bit, then an employee's got to give too. So
right,
that Friday when I tell you don't need to be in the office, well, maybe some Fridays you do need to be in the office,
right,
and depending on what's going on. So
right. Brother, I think flexibility is very important on both the employer-employee side when you need to be flexible. That may be the pearl of wisdom for this year, is going back to what that flexibility was. Instead of having set days, in some case, maybe having a set day or two, but having the ability to be flexible. Like as you were saying earlier in our conversation, maybe the day that the person wanted to take off is not one of those days.
yeah,
So,
and I think like most environments or most situations, communication and making sure that there's dialogue around it makes sense rather than frustration on both ends. Oh.
right, right.
Excellent. Marc Z Legal Staffing. Mark, if people want to get in touch with you, want to talk about their needs, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, first of all, Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, and the letter, just M-A-R-C and the letter Z, and we come right up. Go on Radio Entrepreneur's wonderful website, Marc Z Legal, MarcZlegal.com, and 617-338-1300.
I love you use the Marc Z. Maybe it's because I've known you so long. I feel like I can pronounce Zwetschgenbaum, but I guess it's you've cornered the Z market. So this has been a Marc Z moment. Always a great time to have you on Radio Entrepreneurs. I bring relevant topics and relevant discussion to our forum. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Great being on the show.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.